Okay, this is Inside Manzano, and I think I'm saying that right. The Life of a Nuclear Special Weapons Storage Site. This is by Charles E. Kabler. I think I'm saying that right. And I believe this is from like 2021. So a very recent book. Oh no, 2022 actually. This is overall interesting if you're like me and you like looking into Cold War infrastructure. You'll find this fascinating. Of course, the Manzano complex is the storage area is one of the original secure nuclear weapons storage areas in just outside of Albuquerque, just kind of southeast of Albuquerque proper, as part of Kirtland Air Force Base. And that was one of the original mountain complexes tunneled out for storing nuclear weapons. And this is written by a former security officer, I think I'm saying that right, that wrote this all down and interviewed other security personnel about their experience. And overall, I don't want to say dry reading, nothing against the author's history and everything else. A lot of it's very technical about the functions of the complex, how it worked, how the security worked. But for those of you curious about, again, that whole Cold War, how a lot of those facilities ran and what the security was like, it's a very fascinating piece of history. So that alone is worth finding this. But I would only recommend this if you're a kind of underground-based purist like myself. One of the things, though, that you will find in here that I found interesting, in addition to a lot of the weird, kind of rare pictures of some of the stuff, let's see, there's a couple of things I wanted to make sure I put in here. One of them is he mentions that this underground facility that's expansive. This is, and you can see this from I-40 as you're going through Albuquerque. If you look south of the freeway, and the edge of the Kirtland Air Force Base is this facility, and that area is rumored to, I know there's a lot of very verified secret facilities all over the Albuquerque and Kirtland Air Force Base property, but it is also rumored to house a major NORAD facility under Albuquerque. We're talking major, like very deep and very expansive. I've had a few people tip me off to some things and then kind of clam up when I started asking too many questions. So I'm inclined to think that there's something to that. How expansive, I may never know, but it's expansive enough that there's allegedly that's the even more secure NORAD site than NORAD in outside of Colorado Springs. And I say it's expansive enough that it allegedly has entrances and exits and stuff miles and miles apart. So he mentions in here that in addition to functioning as a weapons maintenance plant, according to research information, one portal was designed for use as a presidential emergency facility and an alternate military headquarters command post in the event of a national emergency. So the PEFs, as he abbreviates here, or the presidential emergency facilities, those were built, I think, from the late 60s all the way into the early 80s as, again, alternate command posts for the President of the United States. If there was some major disaster, they could fly the President by helicopter to some of these emergency facilities. And there's rumors that a lot of these might have been also connected by tunnel and things like that. So I found that to be interesting and a possible corroboration of that more expansive facility under Albuquerque. But there's that, and there's also a section in here about Paul Benowitz. And I thought that was interesting that he made it into this book, that it actually gives a quick synopsis here on page 148 of his, the Paul Benowitz affair. And again, just for those of you that aren't aware of Paul Benowitz, I'll link a couple of other reviews at the end of this. Paul Benowitz was a business owner that sold test equipment and monitoring equipment to the Kirtland Air Force Base, and he, with using his cameras, captured what he believed to be alien spacecraft taking off and landing from some of these secured areas. And he was concerned that he was witnessing someone breaching the secured areas where they're storing nuclear weapons. So as a concerned citizen, he turned a lot of this material over to the Air Force, hoping that they would investigate this. And rather than do that, they investigated, but they also just destroyed this guy psychologically by just pounding him with all kinds of disinformation. So again, check out the links at the end of the video, because Paul Benowitz's case is, I think, a kind of a Rosetta Stone of sorts to understanding a lot of the other intrigues surrounding the UFO riddle and just a lot of stuff happening in New Mexico. But at any rate, back to the Manzano book here. One of the interesting things that he mentions is he quotes this, or talks about this book. Political scientist Michael Barkin wrote in his book, A Culture of Conspiracy, Apocalyptical Visions of Contemporary America, that abandoned former Cold War underground missile installations gave plausibility to the Dulce base rumors. If abandoned underground missile installations could house this type of activity, could the storage structures such as the ones at Manzano ostensibly not do the same? Benowitz advocated a connection between Dulce and Manzano base, and it was his contention that because of the underground complex tunneled into the mountains, Manzano would be a likely extension of the Dulce base. Now, it's interesting that this author doesn't say that there was not a base in Dulce. In fact, hard to tell exactly if he's getting at anything here, if anything at all, but it does make you wonder the way he words that. It's almost as if what is rumored to be the Dulce base up in Dulce, New Mexico, might have actually been some other Cold War facility that was then co-opted for use as something else. So very interesting verbiage surrounding that. But anyway, I'll stop with that. But I found that to be curious. And overall, like I said, pretty straightforward information. But especially those of you curious about nuclear technology and just the security surrounding that, and a lot of the way security was run at some of these sites is fascinating reading, at least to me. So anyway, if you are a student of things like underground bases and curious about old Cold War infrastructure, this is definitely one of those that's a fascinating read. So anyway, I'll stop there. That's Inside Manzano, The Life of a Nuclear Special Weapons Storage Site, from 2022 by Charles E. Kabler.